My name is Matthias Henley, and welcome to Man vs. Myth.
On tonight's episode, Matthias goes deep into the trashiest woods of the trashiest area of North Carolina, known as the Trash Forest. Despite the name of this region, legend has it that it might be the last reported location of the mythical silver-haired man-bat, a creature that Matthias has searched his entire life for, and tonight, he's determined to find proof of its existence. This is Man vs. Myth.
Now we know much about the silver-haired bat, otherwise known as the Lestheonthicteras noctivegans. It's a medium-sized bat with short brown hair, brownish black hair, with silver little tips on it, hence the name silver-haired bat. But what we don't have much evidence on is the legendary silver-haired man-bat. It's been terrorizing the southeastern states of the United States since 1798, when Bob Falanfaly found the remains of one of the man-bats. Since Bob's discovery, he is certain there is something mysterious in the woods. So he founded the Silver-Haired Man-Bat Society, otherwise known as SHMS, to see if there's something truly out there in the woods. Is it a mysterious folklore, or is it true? Tonight on Man vs. Myth, we're gonna find out. All I'm gonna bring is a light and a couple cameras, and we're just gonna try to talk to the creature, because maybe he's just lonely.
Now, as we enter the woods, we have to be very quiet, in order to not scare any potential creatures away. Now, there have been reports that there have been some captures of silver-haired man-bats, but sadly the government has covered it up, because we can't have anything good in this country, can we? We have to be very careful, though, because if we scare this creature, we might not see another one, because according to SHMS, there's been a less and less encounters of this poor creature in the wild, so potentially there might be only a few left due to poachers craving its beautiful nutrients of silver-haired man-bat meat. It's been at least 3 hours of non-stop walking, and nothing happening yet. I'm curious if this is truly a myth, as they said in the history books. You know, my mom always told me that maybe I should actually get an actual job instead of walking around the woods and being on weird forums all day online. I've traveled at least 18.5 thousand paces. I don't know what that is in any potential measuring system, but it's a lot. It's a lot. It's at least, you know, a couple hundred feet, maybe. What's this? This looks like some sort of ancient burial ground, or some kind of ritual site. Perhaps I've discovered something amazing, or it could be just a bunch of stupid rocks that some idiot put in here to put fire around. I don't know. I'm getting a little tired now. There isn't much left to say, besides potentially this creature might not be real, but I'm not gonna give up hope. It's my name. It's Matthias Henley, and he never gives up hope. Never in the face of such adversity. I've passed the same dang tree. I'm going in circles, but I swear I hear something out there. I don't know. What is that? We gotta run! It's not a kind creature! We have to go!
Ladies and gentlemen, Matthias Henley for Man vs. Myth. Turns out the silver-haired man-bat is indeed a true, certifiable thing. Ladies and gentlemen, take care. I don't know what other thing could possibly exist in this world.
What? You expect me to explain that? Explain what you just saw? Explain the ungodly things you just witnessed? Nah, I don't think I will. I don't think anybody can. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Manly Hanley's channel. I'm your host, Manly Hanley.
And today we're watching an animated series created in 2003 by the same people who would later bring us Dragons, Fire, and Ice. We are watching Silverwing. Now this was recommended to me by 10 Times the Hedgehog, who recommended it ages ago. You might have heard me talk about it in my update video, and sorry it's taken me this long to do it, but thankfully they have the entire series uploaded on their channel. So thank you so much for that, 10 Times the Hedgehog. Huge shout out to you. This series is actually based on a 1997 novel by the same name, written by Kenneth Opel, which became a series of books as time went on. Now, not having read the book, I can't say much on its quality, but from the reviews and summaries that I've seen, a lot of people seem to enjoy it. For example, some people state that even though it's considered a children's novel, people of all ages can enjoy it. And honestly, it seems like it's much more of a coming-of-age story with some interesting mythology added in there. And yeah, I know it's about bats, but if you can put that idea to the side for a second and just kind of immerse yourself in the story, it's really cool to me, at least it sounds like it is. Now, Bardell Entertainment produced this series as well as the Philippine Animation Studio. And I'm not trying to say that I didn't like Dragons, Fire, and Ice. I mean, some of the visuals were cool, but the story wasn't much. So I'm wondering if this show is going to exceed my expectations or even meet them. My fear, though, is this is going to be a show that tries way too hard to be funny and relevant for 2003, and it falls flat in way too many places. That's my fear right now. However, I've checked out some of the screenshots, and honestly, it reminds me of Gargoyles, which is a very interesting series that I heard a lot about. Never watched it, but definitely something that was very unique for its time. Long story short, I don't have high expectations for this series. However, it's only 13 episodes, figured why not give it a shot. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Silverwing. Chapter 1, Glimpse of the Sun. So the premise of this series is pretty simple. The bats have been banished by the beasts and the birds, so they can't be in the daylight, or else the owls will kill them. And here's our main character for the series, Shade Silverwing, who is picked on by like everybody.
You'll see him when we get to Hibernaculum, if your runty little wings can make the migration. Then again, why bother when you don't have a dad anyway?
Already the show is giving us this underdog vibe for Shade, which is great in establishing some empathy.
You guys go. I'm gonna hang around here and see the sun.
You have broken the most ancient law of our colony.
We have no choice but to hand the lawbreaker over to the owls.
Well, that's savage. They're just gonna hand him straight over. Now we get to look at this cool echo chamber, which has all of the past ancestors' stories and stuff inside of it. We see that there was a war between the birds and the beasts, and the bats were kind of like both, but neither, so they really didn't choose a side, hence why they were banished.
Bring the boy to me.
No.
Such a decision jeopardizes the balance of nature.
Look into your heart.
Emotions have no place in the execution of the law.
My point exactly. The owls were well within their...
General Brutus, with all due respect, as head of this colony, I stand firm on this.
Wow, the elders aren't even uniform in their beliefs, which is kind of cool. Shows you kind of how, really, in any kind of political committee or something like that, there's people with differing viewpoints, differing agendas.
Very well. Prepare to suffer the consequences!
Silverwings, retreat! We must all retreat now!
Wow, Shade is going to carry some serious guilt throughout this series. The whole home was destroyed because of what he did, and also the connection to their past ancestors is lost now. That's a big thing to do in the first episode. Chapter 2, No Bat is an Island. With their home destroyed, they decide to migrate early to a place called Hibernaculum.
You need to know the way to our winter roost. Listen well.
There's a cool CG sequence about the sound map that I actually really like. I really enjoyed that the animators and the story group decided to put in these little looks that the characters give each other and these reaction shots. It really does solidify the impact of what just happened. While migrating, they encounter a horrible storm in which Shade gets separated from the group. After seeing like literally every hellspawn known to man, he encounters this chick named Marina, a Brightwing.
What's wrong with your fur?
Wrong? What do you mean? There is nothing wrong with my fur.
It's all...
Okay, Shade, do we need to have a talk about your choice of words here?
You're white. Will you look at it?
Meanwhile, the sketchy-looking bat escapes. Looks like he's been juicing, man. Shade notices a metal band on her arm, which we find out to be given from a human, and basically it's a cursed band that you're marked for death, and she was banished for it from her own people.
Death? Are you sure? I mean, I know someone...
No, you don't know.
Let me finish.
I don't want to talk about it.
I really like his skepticism of traditions and things like that. I hope it's something that continues throughout the story. Maybe there's going to be some more characters that continue to question why things are the way they are, not just accepting it sitting down. After playing around with some whales and getting almost eaten alive, they're going to head down to the mainland together to meet up with the rest of the Bat Colony. What I'm enjoying so far is that each of these characters have their own unique backstory that has a little bit of darkness in it that's kind of different, something that I usually don't see very often. So, 2 episodes in, so far so good. Chapter 3, Pigeon Court. Marina asks about Shade's sound map, but he's unable to remember all of it, except for a tower. Meanwhile, that sketchy bat we saw is out of containment and he ate a pigeon. Okay, that's something. They find a tower, but it's not the right one, and then they're caught by some pigeons when this owl general blames them for a pigeon's murder that we just saw.
The Silverwings are obviously killing innocent pigeons as retribution for our burning of Tree Haven.
That's insane!
Capture and arrest all Silverwings!
Again, this series is showing us prejudice. The owl has a preconceived notion about all Silverwings.
Oh, and Captain? Torture these 2 prisoners until they reveal the colony's whereabouts.
Marina and Shade eventually escape by turning off the lights. Apparently pigeons can't see in the dark, didn't know that. But Shade got his wing ripped. Shade's mom is concerned, so Frida decides to let the bat stay a little longer in the city just in case he shows up.
Any sign of Shade?
I'm sorry, Ariel. Nothing.
For your own good, you should forget about your boy. There's no way he survived that storm.
Bathsheba is terrible. Can we establish that? I think we've established that by this point, right? Chapter 4, Bats in the Belfry. Our group finally finds the actual tower, though, and meets Zephyr, the bat traffic controller. I'm gonna call him Grant's bat for now, okay? And tells him where the Silverwings are heading.
When are you going to migrate?
Never. My full name is Zephaniah, which means protection. I believe it is my destiny to protect other bats as they migrate.
Don't you miss your colony?
I was abandoned as a baby. Perhaps you know what that is like?
Even Gramps has a tragic backstory very similar to Marina's. He gives Shade a healing medicine for his torn wing, but Shade is impatient and decides to fly around for a bit and gets chased by some pigeons. But they get distracted by a bat who all of a sudden disappears.
You're one of those birds who tried to kill me out there.
You're mistaken. Look, can't you see? I'm hurt.
Shade, she's hurt. Back off.
Oh no!
Oh God!
Did you see, hear that?
I heard a young bat blinded by his anger. Then I saw something change in him.
This really shows that Shade has plenty of growth to do as a character, that he is also prejudiced. Again, not only showing prejudice from the Owl's point of view, but also from the Silverwing's point of view. Turns out Gramps has this echo projection type power and made the bat and the pigeon. The colony stays at a water tower to chill, but a bird spots them and rats their location to the Owl General. After a bit of a training montage, Shade learns a bit of echo projection and some knowledge about plants. But then Gramps senses the colony's in danger, and when Shade and Marina go to look, he is captured by an owl. Okay, there's this like 1 or 2 minute section where these little squirrels came up and how they were complaining about how they were getting harassed as well. I guess because they're similar to bats in some way. I guess flying squirrels, I don't remember now. But wow, it shows you how oppression can affect more than just one group of people. I'm liking this vibe so far, kind of deep. Chapter 5, Dark Alliance. But out of nowhere, that sketchy bat attacks and literally kills the owl. This other bat shows up and they're about to eat that guy. What? Okay.
I am Goth. This is my brother-in-law, Throb. We are new to these lands, torn away from our own.
Us too. You could travel with Marina and me. We're headed south to find my colony.
Okay, Shade is way too trustworthy of these guys to let them follow him to the colony.
I see you were also taken prisoner by those smelly humans, senorita.
While these 2 bats do share a similar backstory in relation to Marina's band, these guys are carnivores. They basically eat anything, including bats. So yeah, this is a no-go. Shade explains all of what happened, and Goth says we can get an army and end the injustice, claiming to make Shade a commander. You can tell that Shade is impressionable and wants some kind of father figure. That guy is trying to manipulate the needs of Shade, though. Shade looks into the sound map and sees the Tower of Fire and tells Throb and Goth. But Marina is being smart and doesn't trust these sketchy bats, because why would you? Why would you trust 2 bats that look like they're about to eat you at any second? Literally, they lick their lips in front of the other person staring at them.
What? But Shade disagrees with Marina, and they have a little falling out, and she heads out for a minute. Finally, Shade realizes they're bad after seeing a dead bat on the ground they're about to eat. Oh, what gave it away? And tricks Throb to get away. Meanwhile, the colony evacuates due to the owl threat, but gets ambushed into a treacherous barn with all of its early 2000s CGI. Honestly, like the look of it. They escape, and again the elders argue, specifically Bathsheba, because, you know, she's basically evil. They argue about where to go, but they eventually decide to go to the Tower of Fire, the nuclear power plant.
I am closing the skies to all bats. All bats are fair game.
Chapter 6, Friends Indeed. Now on the journey to the nuclear power plant, Brutus verbally abuses his son Orestes and sends an owl to find the Silverwings, while the bad bats think about how to get to the colony too. On the way, Shade and Marina hear a scream and go to help out when they see it's the General's kid, Orestes. And they actually help him despite Shade's obvious prejudice against owls, but they get trapped by Brutus again. Thankfully though, Orestes has a heart and lets the gang go and even guides them to the nuclear power plant. Sadly, Brutus thinks they kidnapped Orestes and he mad. But looks like the bad bats got to the power plant first, and a battle ensues while the colony draws nearer to certain doom. But once again, Orestes saves the day and diverts the colony's path by pretending to be a bad owl. Orestes is a G. I love this man. He loves bugs. I don't love bugs, but I love him. Shade and Goth had this big chase around the plant with lightning popping off and blowing stuff up. Shade takes a risky path, and the thunderstorm electrifies the fence and fries Goth. And, oh my god, I think he did. Wow, killing a main guy, even if it's a bad guy, in a kid's show? Bold, man.
It's over, Shade.
No, it's just begun.
Chapter 7, Everything is Not in Black and White. Yep, pretty sure he did. So now, our gang is trying to find out where the colony diverted to. Meanwhile, the colony bickers a bit with Bathsheba being all like, oh my god, I don't think we should do this. Oh my gosh. I mean, it's like, oh my gosh. And Frida being like, calm the down, please. They decide to rest and go to Stonehold the next day, the place where the rest of the males are. Brutus calls another meeting with all the other animal folks and tells them they need to find a leader for the beasts to hunt down all the Silverwings. Ursa, this bear lady, is nominated the leader, despite her ADD and a lack of leadership skills.
Look at me. I'm out of shape. I don't work well in groups. Did I mention I have attention deficit disorder? Look, a butterfly.
While Shade and Marina are listening in a tree, they get trapped by some wolves who have these other motives outside of what Brutus wants. They say they want to protect the Silverwings so they can do whatever they want to eat and kill anything. But the hungry wolves get sidetracked by a bunny, so our heroes escape and decide to talk to Ursa about stopping the wolves from killing everything. Ursa is a bit egotistical, claiming she's so special, and she doesn't even do anything about the bad wolves, or even trying to tell Brutus about Shade's innocence. Then they see this little baby bear who lost their mom. Oh, this poor little thing. Oh god. But they take it to Ursa, and she's like, no, I'm not gonna share with that. I don't like sharing. I mean, it's just horrible. It's horrible. Then the wolves corner them with the baby bear, but thankfully Ursa stands up for the baby and just starts whipping some tail. Redemption! Ursa finally decides to talk to Brutus and convince him to stop this war that he's waging. The colony finally arrives at Stonehold to find all the males gone? Huh? Goth is fried, but alive. What? I was honestly shocked when I saw that. Like, seriously. Chapter 8, Deception. With the colony at Stonehold, Bathsheba is continuing to be a nuisance and basically pull a Palpatine to try and take over the leadership by putting the people against Frida and go to a vote. And guess what? Guess what happens? Bathsheba wins. Why would any human being trust this woman? It's like, what the heck, man? Obviously, Palpatine Bathsheba, equivalent. Ursa talks to Brutus, who, surprise, doesn't listen to her, and banishes her and the other beasts due to treason. So now, the crazy wolves are in charge, so you know craziness is about to ensue. While Shade and Marina travel to Stonehold, they are stopped by the bad bats again. Fried Goth plays some funny reverse psychology trying to find the direction of the colony. I actually really like this scene.
Where is your colony? Tell me. You are pointing in the opposite direction to where you flew. Since you have pointed to your colony in the opposite direction, you must know that I would think that you are lying. You must hope that I would not believe you and fly in the opposite direction. I will call your bluff. We shall fly in the opposite of the opposite. opposite direction.
Then Shade throws a curveball, telling them he wants to go to the jungle with them, and they actually buy it. But when Shade goes hunting with Goth, he brings a rabbit back for Shade to kill, to prove himself. Shade tricks them again though, and makes him eat these leaves that make him pass out so he doesn't have to kill the rabbit. There's Gramps' lessons coming in handy. Smart man. Meanwhile, Brutus and the wolves decide to take out Ursa and her gang.
Are you sure your colony was headed this way?
Positive.
Then we're not out of trouble yet.
Chapter 9, I'm with the band. Shade and Marina get back on the road again and run into some bad weather, with the bad bats not too far behind. They find shelter in this little shack that has a bunch of banded bats, of bright wings, just like Marina. But they're religious nutcases, saying that their shiny bands mean they're selected to reclaim the day as humans. There's a word that describes it. Starts with C, ends with O. I can't place the word. They're alluding to this transformation this guy can do, so he walks off for a second and comes back as, well, this. Oh, is that Labatt James? Shade quickly notices that it's echo projection, while Marina actually decides to stay behind. These bats are super creepy, trying to rename her, and then giving her this deadly initiation task, and even asking her to recite this really weird pledge that denies everyone who isn't one of them. Cult, that was the word. That was the word. I got it. I just got it. Just like that. While Shade is going away, he notices the bad bats are almost towards the shack, so he goes back to warn the cult. With a big brain plan, he echo projects a big manly man in the door, claiming to be their new leader, while some of the cult bats fly away to safety. But the bad bats come and eat the rest that are there. Marina and Shade have to abandon them, so all those bats are dead. Dang.
You were the human?
It was an echo projection, just like Scirocco's.
Better than Scirocco's.
Well, I guess we'll be migrating together.
Well, that cult sure did take your religion has been disproven. Get wrecked, kid. Remarkably well. Shouldn't they be mad at the guy for manipulating them? Shouldn't they be questioning all this stuff right now instead of being like, yeah, we're good, it's fine, it's fine. Thankfully, though, one of the cult ladies helps them get back on course to find their colony, so they're not that bad. With Bathsheba at the head of the colony, she leads them through this super dangerous airfield, and then a huge plane comes down right where they are. Like, she's gonna get everybody killed, man. Now that is forked up. They ate all those bats, which is like crazy enough as is. Cannibalism, right? But now they're wearing the bands? That's kind of dark. That's what I'm really liking about this show. It's risk-taking mindset with these darker elements and integrating them in the story where it feels natural and not sugarcoating it for anybody. Chapter 10, Rats. Our gang flies away and seeks refuge in a dump for some food, but runs into the bad bats trying to get a meal for themselves. They knock each other out and Shade and Marina get captured by sewer rats. Okay.
Is that a poop rat? Is that a poop rat?
The kings of the rats, Remus and Romulus, hold them for trade to the owls in order to rule the whole beasts. Meanwhile, Cool Man Orestes overhears his pops going to find Shade, so he decides to tag along. Marina and Shade manipulate the kings to break the deal with Brutus. Remus wants to straight up kill Brutus, actually. Sadly, though, Romulus gets verbally abused by Remus due to the fact that he was born different and with wings. His own brother calls him a freak. That's messed up.
You're my loser of a brother and an embarrassment to our royal family. And I could have had you killed 1,000 times over, but I didn't. You want to know why?
Why?
Because you're so sad and pathetic that I felt sorry for you. Look at you. You're misshapen, you're freakish, you're different. Now be quiet, freak. The owls are almost here.
And Romulus don't like that one bit, so what does he do? He don't like it. He lets our gang go. Romulus is a G, another G. We got 2 Gs, Orestes and Romulus. 2 Gs. Love them to death. Remus gets so mad that he attacks his own brother and they both go flying off the edge to their certain doom. But thankfully, due to Romulus's wings, he survives. But his brother is dead. When Brutus finally gets to the dump, the rats bombard him while our gang escapes to a nearby building. Meanwhile, the colony stays off in a hangar and almost gets sucked up, no thanks to Bathsheba. She basically abandons Frida and a few others. Wow, she's terrible.
Leave her.
Can we agree she's awful? Please, can we agree? Chapter 11, Strange Batfellows. With Shade and Marina in the building, they run into good old Orestes, who actually tells them how all the baddies are heading to the safe spot for the bats, Hibernaculum. The bad bats finally catch up to our gang, so a chase ensues through an abandoned mine where they all get stuck and have to work together to get out. Oh, and on a side note, the bad bats worship the bat equivalent of the devil, Zotz. Not kidding, it's like, his name is like the king of darkness or something like that, I'm not kidding. So yeah.
could explain why they have some issues, you know, just a few. So they get out of the abandoned mine, but since Shade is a nice guy, he comes back to help Goth out. But then obviously, because bad bats be bad and Goth is a hungry boy, he tries to eat him. So Shade decides to use his echo projection to conjure Zots. And yes, the CGI is terrifying. So the bad bat is now traumatized through religious manipulation. I mean, he deserved to get forked, but still, a bit dark. Bathsheba's having this little meeting, and then Frida shows back up, and Bathsheba's like, what's going on? How did you survive? Later on, Frida makes a quick decision that saves the bats from the owls, and because Bathsheba didn't think of it, methinks she's in some trouble now.
All clear.
Okay, the penultimate episode. This has been building up very well. I'm digging this so far, like, wow. Chapter 12, Hibernaculum. And hey, we catch up with Ursa and her crew, who left right before the wolves took over. Ursa decides to head to Shade to help him out. The colony, led once again by Frida, finds the river and reunites with the other half they've been looking for. But the Bad Bats are still on their way to find the Silverwings at Hibernaculum. Shade struggles with his sound map until he remembers it's behind the waterfall. Finally, our heroes are back with the colony. They tell the colony everything and even get Orestes to say that they're telling the truth to prove it. But obviously the colony flips out a little bit when they see him because he's an owl. So Orestes decides to take a risk and show everybody how the wolves are in cahoots with the owls. After Frida kicks Bathsheba out of the council, she goes to Brutus and makes a deal to deliver our gang if she gets some power in return. Even the Bad Bats make a deal with the wolves as well. One to rule the land while the other rules the air. They finna double-cross the owls too. And we even see Ursa get some of her bear brethren together for the potential battle. I have a feeling next episode is going to be like an all-out war. It's got to be, right? It's building to that point. Chapter 13, Day of Judgment. Big battle time, boys! So, final episode. How does it start? Super big action sequence or something crazy? Actually not. Shade dreams about how all this began, beginning with the home being burned down, and feels guilty for everything that's happened up until that point. It's really great for the series to take a second right before all the probably the big action set piece, right, to show how Shade has grown through the series and how much has happened. I really like the fact they took a second to do that. The council actually decides to leave Hibernaculum, their safe spot. Then the owls all of a sudden arrive and take our gang for questioning and I guess execution. I don't know, it looks kind of sketchy. Looks like they're gonna kick them off the ledge, right? Some Pirates level stuff there, boy. Some Jack Sparrow. But then the Bad Bats show up and attack the owls while the wolves nibble on them when they hit the ground. Then chaos just ensues everywhere. It's nuts. Everybody's attacking and all sorts of crazy stuff. Orestes goes to help his pops from all this, but then he gets dragged away by a wolf. But let me tell you something, man. Ursa rolls up with the crew and she just goes on it with them wolves. She attacks them. She just wrecks them. Oh, so good. Next thing you know, Shade takes on Goth and is actually saved in the last second by Brutus. They're working together against a common enemy. But it all looks bleak as the baddies are getting ahead, but the sun rises. If you remember, the sunrise began the series as a way to cause such turmoil, right? It messed up everything, right? But now, at the very end, it's gonna cause great triumph.
Again, it's like poetry, so if they rhyme.
And finally, thanks to the sun, Shade's echo projection, and some help from the owls, the bad guys are donezo.
Thanks.
No. Thank you, Lawbreaker.
Brutus finally realizes the error of his ways towards the bats and his son, and experiences character development. He even changes an age-old law and allows the bats to fly anytime they want. Duck yeah, equality, baby. Earlier in the series, Shade's mom mentioned something about his father, who Shade thought was just gone. They signed the series off, with Marina saying,
"If your dad's still out there,"
and Shade saying,
"I'll find him."
And that's it. So what are my overall thoughts for this series? Well, despite the fact that I did make some jokes here and there, the series does maintain a fairly serious tone for the most part, with very little gags and silly bits. I feel like the story was pretty cool, the characters are fairly three-dimensional and well written, there's some interesting internal conflict between the elders, there's some great small character moments of reflection, and overall, I really enjoyed it. Now, there are some cliched moments here and there, such as Brutus just being just this really bad guy, and then all of a sudden at the end, he just has a change of heart.
You really don't get to see any of his humanity over the series at all. Maybe a little bit with him talking to Orestes, but even then he's kind of mean towards him. So yeah, it's kind of a bit of an abrupt change for Brutus. So that's one negative. And Bathsheba not really having much of a character either, besides just being kind of plotting and just mean and evil in general. And then the bad bats, Throb and Goth, just being evil the whole time and not really changing at all. So yeah, the bad guys might not be the most well written, but I feel like the good guys and their, character flaws that you see throughout the story kind of rise above those potential negatives. At least in my opinion, it does. In terms of the animation style, I remember first viewing this and kind of being meh, it's okay. But on second viewing, I realized I actually was kind of being a little harsh towards it, and it has some charm to it, and especially the 3D elements, despite the fact, this is early 2000s, and, CG and computer series is definitely not what it is today. I felt like there was a lot of cool moments in there, and they integrated it pretty well, at least in my opinion they did. But honestly, I think this is truly a story about prejudice. It might feel small in scope and modest in some ways, but I see deep political and social subtext about war, interests of differing populations, religious themes, progressive movements, learning to accept others and change, and ultimately every side trying to overcome their prejudice against a different group of people or something. We see Brutus overcome his prejudice towards the bats, and we see Shade overcome his prejudice towards owls. So what I think I like about this is it just shows that both sides are growing, and they're both overcoming that prejudice they previously had at the beginning of the series. Long story short, I actually enjoyed this series. There's a lot of things going for it in my opinion, and hey, maybe give it a shot if you want to watch something that might be a little different, early 2000s animation with maybe some kind of interesting, deep, potential underlying themes there. At least in my opinion it is. So I would recommend Silverwing to anybody who feels like it might be an interesting story to view. So, welcome to the credits section of this video. There's a lot of resources that I used for the making of this, so if there's anything you see you enjoyed, you might want to check out some of the links here. I'm going to also have them in the description for different audio files or music or video clips and stuff. I'll try to have everything linked here so you can check it out if you're curious or want to use it for something. I just want to thank everybody for watching this unusual video. Definitely started off one way, and then it turned into something else about 4 minutes in. I just wanted to do that, and so yeah, thanks for actually sticking through to the end for those people that are listening to this. It took me way too long to actually finish this video. In fact, I started working on the script a very, very long time ago, and I've worked on the editing for around a month or so. Now, that's by no means indicative of its quality, but just want to say sorry it took me so long. Not sure how many review type things I'll do in the future, since it does seem to take a very long time for me to do them, but as usual on this channel, if I feel like doing one, hey, I'll do it. I just want to close this off by saying I hope everyone is doing well. With my work getting ready to start up again, I'm reminded that we often forget to take time for ourselves to enjoy the little moments due to a myriad of life obligations that take our time every single day. So just remember to take care of yourself above all else, because you deserve it. Thanks again for watching. Much love to all out there, and I'll see you next time.